Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on all things narcissism. And this video is part of sort of a little series we have on family roles in narcissistic family systems. Listen, we're talking about a lot of different family roles today. We're going to talk about the scapegoat, probably one of the most classical narcissistic family roles. If that's any of you, love to hear your story, or just own it down below, because I think that when you see yourself in one of these family roles, you'll see there's a lot of people there where you are. So let's take on this issue of the scapegoat. And before we get there, as always, please subscribe to this channel, get notifications by hitting that bell, and if you like this video, give it a like. So let's talk about the scapegoat. A scapegoat is a person who is blamed for the mistakes or sins of another person. It's a term that apparently has biblical origins. This is often done, scapegoating is often done to get the scapegoater off the hook and leaves the scapegoat holding the bag, and the beat goes on. So when we talk about scapegoating from a narcissistic family roles perspective, we are talking about the family member, usually a child, who takes on the blame, rage, frustration, disappointments of the narcissistic parent or other narcissistic family members. It's a devastating role within a family because children cannot make sense of why they are blamed for something, especially something they really didn't do. It leaves a child wondering how the heck are they supposed to get it right, or how can they be enough just to get the parent to stop scapegoating them. And scapegoating can be part of a larger family dynamic called family mobbing, in which there is an overall enabling which fosters everyone scapegoating one family member. That scapegoat doesn't only just get it from the narcissistic parent, they get it from everyone. This can manifest in many ways, including teasing, insulting, saying things like, hey, maybe one day you could be your brother's maid, or you ruined my life. I would have had an amazing career if you weren't born. Or a parent who had a bad day at work coming home and saying, if I didn't have enough problems and now I have to deal with you. Or parent says, maybe if you weren't such a bad kid, I wouldn't get so mad at you. The phenomenon of scapegoating is deeply painful, and sadly, it doesn't stop when childhood ends. Many people report that the scapegoating goes well into adulthood and never really stops. You are still insulted, still blamed for a whole range of family issues, still told that you are the reason for your parents' misery. Why do narcissistic family systems scapegoat? Because scapegoating is a form of projection, of deflection, of not taking responsibility, of punishing people that are not congruent with the narcissistic parent's grandiose self. Scapegoated children tend to not represent the parent in the way the parent wants. This may be the child that doesn't look the way the parent wants, or who isn't good at school, or who isn't good at sports. This can be particularly true of boys who are scapegoated by narcissistic dads. Kids who aren't slender enough, who simply do not possess qualities that the narcissistic parent values in themselves and want projected to the world. Because a narcissistic parent merely views a child as an extension of themselves and have little interest in learning about their children as separate entities, children who don't measure up on whatever parameter the narcissistic parent wants are often scapegoated. Now, scapegoating is very bad for a child and a child's mental health. It's emotional abuse, plain and simple. These are children who go on as adults to struggle with anxiety, with feeling not enough, who may not feel empowered to pursue their goals because those mocking voices are always in their heads, who may continue to be blamed for family issues and feel ongoing guilt that their narcissistic parents and family system may perpetuate. And then there is the risk that the scapegoated child in adulthood becomes more likely to fall into more scapegoated relationships. So these could happen at work, in romantic relationships, and with friends. They remain the scapegoat throughout their lives. Being scapegoated can also set a person up for risk of a range of psychological issues, including anxiety, depression, a poor sense of self-worth, post-traumatic stress symptoms, difficulties with emotional or behavioral regulation, and a greater risk for maladaptive coping, including drugs and alcohol, food, or acting out, or even body distortions. After a lifetime of being told you aren't attractive enough, you can easily see how a person will look at themselves through that lens, and that can culminate in eating disorders or body dysmorphic patterns. There's also a risk of falling into a pattern of victimhood if you were scapegoated. Resist the temptation to do this because it can hold you back. It is easier to accept that the system is broken and you climbed out of it than to view yourself as a recipient of abuse that cannot help yourself. Don't let their abuse define you. Trauma bonding can be a major issue for scapegoats whose first initiation into so-called love was really about abuse, and as such, they may be at greater risk for equating love with abuse and their ancient scripts of feeling worthless and unlovable. But there is some bright light, believe it or not, for the scapegoat, and I really believe this. This is the group, if they can find the gumption and give themselves permission to be able to walk away from these toxic family systems, especially with the scapegoated person who receives therapy, they may finally be able to give themselves permission to set a boundary, go no contact, stop taking responsibility for the family BS, and not be surprised when nothing is left to them in a will, and when they are still told by parents and siblings alike that it's your fault. While the trauma bond risk always lurks, if a scapegoat can find the mental health help they need or can find escape, ideally both, they may be less likely to participate in the broken system. Scapegoats may be more likely to just cut and run and leave the family system, move far away, create a life in another place, and that geography can make it easier to maintain distance and boundaries. Even though we know narcissists are capable of taunting you from the other side of the planet, the scapegoats might be more likely to give themselves permission to escape than the golden child or other family role types. What happens if you call your family system out about the narcissistic dynamic? Not surprisingly, they will just scapegoat you more. Taking responsibility is not a narcissistic family's strong suit, so they will gaslight you and tear you down more and more. Pointing out the issues in the system will just re-traumatize you, so there really is no point. Interestingly, after your family narcissists burn down all of their bridges, they may one day turn to you for help. After all, they never valued you much to begin with. It's up to you if you offer it or not. They have conveniently short memories, brought that up in the narcissistic amnesia video, for how they hurt you. And since they always just viewed you as an object or an extension of themselves, they are entitled enough to believe you will help them despite all they did to you. Again, after listening to this, I ask, were any of you scapegoated in your narcissistic family system? If you were, drop that line down there and reflect on how this might have impacted you, or just let us know, because I think that if enough of you in this community let each other know, yeah, I was scapegoated and I'm still standing, there can be a lot of support that comes from this community and a lot of reassurance that it can be okay, even if you had to endure the rigors of scapegoating. As always, thanks again for tuning in. Especially, I hope this Family Roles series is helpful to you in understanding these roles. Please, if you like this video, give me that thumbs up. Don't scapegoat me. Just give me that thumbs up. Thank you. Hit that subscribe button and hit that bell if you want notifications. As always, thank you for watching and listening.